Site safety. Safe work practices are ways of controlling hazards and doing jobs with a minimum of risk to people and property. To reduce risk, management, in cooperation with employees, have developed a set of safe work practices. Safe work practices will include perfected ways of completing tasks, how to maintain housekeeping in areas, planning ahead for use of machines and other equipment, etc. All employees should be familiar with safe work practices and safe operating procedures for all aspects of the organization, but in particular, they must be totally familiar with those aspects of the operation where they regularly work. All employees must follow safe operating practices and procedures for their work areas. Safe operating procedures are sometimes referred to as proper job procedures or methods. Written job procedures will be used to train new employees and contractors that are moved to new jobs. Job procedures will be used by employees as a reference, especially for complex jobs, particularly hazardous jobs, or for jobs that are not done very often. Safe job procedures are selected and conducted on an ongoing basis as needed, time and effort allow. Safe job procedures are also amended whenever equipment, raw materials, processes, or the environment change. Versys is committed to ensuring that the most critical and high hazardous jobs are examined first. Inspections. Inspections help to identify potential hazards as well as showing workers that management is involved in the health and safety system. Inspections can be formal or informal. Once a month, or at least once per project, a site inspection needs to be completed. Once a month, vehicle inspections need to be completed by all employees or contractors that are charging out a vehicle, drive a company vehicle, or drive a rental vehicle on site. Electrical safety. When performing electrical work, personnel must meet the following safe work requirements. Ensure certified, qualified, and trained workers perform work involving electrical equipment, including test devices. In the case of high voltage work, workers must provide proof of professional permit and qualifications pertaining to high voltage systems. Ensure that all electrical equipment that is used or to be worked on have certified ground fault circuit interrupters. All employees working on electrical equipment shall be provided basic electrical safety training. These employees should be provided training on working safely with electricity, recognition of electrical hazards, prevention of electrical shock and arc flash, and recognition or electrical shock and arc flash hazard labels. Confined space. Confined space entry practices must be allowed when the confined space has any of the following characteristics. It contains or has a potential to contain a hazardous atmosphere. It contains a material that has a potential for engulfing an entrant. It has an internal configuration such that an entrant could be trapped or asphyxiated by inwardly converging walls or by a floor that slopes downward and tapers to a smaller cross section. It contains any other recognized serious safety or health hazards. Respiratory protection. Versys will ensure that the appropriate respiratory equipment is supplied and available to the workers at the work site when there is a potential of toxic substances in the air. The equipment supplied will be approved by NIOSH or another standard setting and equipment testing organization, or combination of organizations approved by the Director of Occupational Hygiene. Respiratory protection ensures that an adequate supply of breathable air is available and that the worker is protected while performing activities with toxic substances. Fall hazards exist in everyday operation. Hazards associated with fall protection include falling from height. Fall hazards exist when personnel are working on pumping units, service rigs, storage tanks, ladders, communication towers, and working from aerial platforms and other mechanical lifting devices. Versys employees performing work requiring fall protection require training in the fall protection plan and the safe use of the fall protection system before being allowed to work in the area where a fall protection system must be used. All personnel who perform tasks that include the use of fall protection must have the proper combination of expertise, experience, knowledge, and education and be considered competent by their supervisor. A competent worker means adequately qualified, suitably trained, and with sufficient experience to safely perform work without supervision or with only a minimal degree of supervision. If you are unsure, stop and ask. Hydrogen sulfide, H2S. Hydrogen sulfide is a highly toxic gas. In high concentrations, it can kill in seconds by paralyzing the respiratory system. When H2S is present at the location of work, all practicable steps will be taken as identified in the Code of Practice to ensure that no worker's exposure will exceed 10 ppm over an 8-hour period or 15 ppm at any time. All workers must comply with the hydrogen sulfide code of practice when working at sites where H2S may be present. Hydrogen sulfide is a common contaminant in the upstream oil and gas industry. H2S occurs as a vapor or dissolved in produced water, crude oil, or natural gas condensate. Hydrocarbons contaminated with H2S are commonly called sour. Exposure to concentrations of H2S at 100 ppm or 0.01% is immediately dangerous to life and health. For health and safety purposes, all wells and facilities processing hydrocarbons contaminated with any concentration of H2S will be evaluated for potential hazards to the workers. Working alone. Occasionally, fully trained and competent workers may need to work alone. Versys requires a means of checking the well-being of workers when they are working alone and or when the worker might not be able to secure assistance in the event of an injury. Versys recognizes the hazards presented to our workers and subcontractors when they are required to perform work alone. All employees who work alone must have their particular job compared to the standard risk assessments for common positions to ensure their safety. All working alone situations must be assessed for severity. Working alone hazards. The hazard presented to employees who work alone must be considered in the risk assessment process. These hazards include injury from work, injury from assault, robbery, vehicle accidents, vehicle breakdown, stranded, isolated due to inclement weather or road conditions. Employees will be provided with emergency contact information to carry with their radio or cell phone. Supervisors will establish the parameters under which they will contact emergency services. If an employee does not report in when required and cannot be contacted, a supervisor will attend the site, assess the situation, and request help if required. Journey management. The journey management plan is to ensure that all employees that operate motor vehicles safely to, from, and during operations. The plan will provide all information that will be utilized in the safe planning and monitoring of the journey. All employees are required to review and follow the plan. The plan must include name of driver, name of passengers, vehicle type, vehicle registration number or fleet number, journey approval name, date of plan, contact telephone names and numbers, date of journey, arrival and departure times, route details, and rest period details. Before a journey is to commence, the following must be confirmed. The vehicle is approved. The vehicle is in safe working condition. Vehicle checklists have been completed. A roadside emergency kit and all safety equipment are verified to be in the vehicle. The driver is authorized for the journey. The driver is fit and not under the influence of drugs, alcohol, or prescription drugs. An emergency communication device is in working order. Example, a cell phone that will have service in rural areas, remote communication device. Remember to always drive safely, follow all traffic regulations, carry safety equipment in your vehicles, plan for road conditions, create a travel plan, and manage fatigue and fitness for driving. Fire safety. Fire safety is a concern at all sites and offices. A good fire safety program encompasses training and understanding of the causes and sources of fire, prevention measures, suppression techniques, and safe excavation procedures. Each company vehicle will be supplied with a fire extinguisher. Fire extinguishers are also located throughout the shop and office. Not all fire extinguishers are the same. Use the proper class of fire extinguisher only on fires it was designed to extinguish. Know where fire extinguishers are located and what class they are. Number one goal is safety. Only attempt to extinguish small fires. Never put a used fire extinguisher back in place. Have it recharged. Pull the pin on the fire extinguisher handle. Aim the nozzle horn of the extinguisher at the base or the bottom of the fire. Squeeze the handles together to make the extinguisher work. Sweep the nozzle of the extinguisher from side to side as if using a broom. Training. Supervisors shall monitor employee training compliance. No employee will be allowed to perform work that could potentially be hazardous unless they are properly trained or are under the direct supervision of a competent employee. Competency is based on a worker being adequately qualified, suitably trained, and with sufficient experience to work without or only a minimal degree of supervision. Management will determine the priority of training required based on the following priority levels. Priority 1, legislated or customer requirements. Training that an employee must have while working with Versys is WMIS, First Aid, CPR, PPE, H2S, etc. Priority 2, current business targets. Training that is required to develop personnel for their current positions and to provide backup skills in short-term succession planning. Priority 3, future development. Training required for the next career assignment as well as training required for maintaining the long-term reliability of the operation. Lockout, tagout. Lockout, tagout safe operating practices are used to safely isolate potentially hazardous energy sources in the work area during service or maintenance work. The equipment must be completely inoperative before any repair work is started. Hazards associated with lockout, tagout include electrocution, unexpected startup of equipment, line of fire, H2S, LEL, and fire. Bloodborne pathogens. Versys will manage the bloodborne pathogens exposure control program and maintain all records pertaining to it. Versys will provide training for all staff, including employees and contractors whose assigned job duties include first aid or may come into contact with a bloodborne pathogen. This training will be conducted online annually. Thank you for completing the Versys Health and Safety Orientation. If you have any questions, please refer to the Health and Safety SharePoint site, contact your supervisor, or speak to your HR safety representative. Remember, safety starts with you.